Hey everyone, this is Phil. As you might know, if you've been watching my videos, I've been using the Sony a7c as my primary camera mostly for video, but also for stills that I shoot for work of archery competitions. For the better part of, I think, 2 years, ever since it was released, I had been wanting a compact full frame body because I do own a lot of vintage and not so vintage manual focus lenses, and they do perform better on full frame, obviously, because they're designed for that. And so I got this right when it came out, and I was really excited about the follow-up, the a7c Mark II, which has just been announced. So I was glad to see that Sony gave us the opportunity to try these out in the Sony Store in Ginza right before the start of pre-orders. Disclaimer, I am not sponsored or supported by Sony in any way. They have no idea I exist. I went there as a regular customer. So I wanted to see especially the improvements in the EVF, because the EVF is one of the weakest points of this camera. As you can see, it's tiny and it is very lackluster compared to a lot of cameras in the same segment. Then also I'm excited about the focus breathing compensation, about the improvements in video features like the 4K 60, the S-Cinetone, that kind of stuff. And I was actually under the impression that it had better slow-mo as well. I thought that it had 240 frames per second in 1080, which it does unfortunately not. So I'm quite excited about this camera, and I was happy that I got some time to try it out at the Sony store. So come with me, we'll check it out. We'll go over the features that I just mentioned and see how they actually behave in person. So as you can see, the body is virtually identical. The grip is a tiny bit deeper. It's a little wider, I think, but it also has a totally different texture. This texture, it looks like a faux leather, but it's a lot stickier than the kind of rubbery texture that the a7c had. So once you pick it up, you can feel it gives you a lot better grip, which would be especially beneficial if you have a heavy lens on there. I tried it with this G Master lens, which does have some heft to it compared to my 24, and it felt a lot more solid. The on-off switch has been altered, so it has a different clicky feel to it. The switch on the a7c has kind of a more chunk feel, whereas the new one is more like a click. You can also see that the shutter button is a fair bit larger. You can see the a7c Mark II has the USB-C port right next to the microphone port at the top of the camera. It used to be at the bottom, right below the HDMI port. Sometimes they got in the way of each other, so that is an appreciated change. They both still have one SD card slot, but a change is that on the Mark II, the SD card now faces you, which is the same way as the ZV-1 and presumably a lot of other cameras do it, because I've seen this mentioned in reviews a lot, that this was the wrong way around. I wasn't aware of that, to be honest, but I guess it's good that it's the right way around now. Right away, when you look at the Fs, you can see that the one on the a7c Mark II is a fair bit wider. While they have similar resolution, it might be the same resolution, you can actually see that it is a lot bigger once you actually look through it. If you look at the a7c Mark I, you see it has like a black frame which within the viewfinder, and it just looks a lot smaller, yeah, it's a huge improvement. As you can see, we have the touchscreen menus. They're actually very responsive, which is good to see. So a lot of the tests that I saw were touching them very slowly, but obviously in real life you would go with them like you would with a smartphone, and they are very responsive to touch, and they change the settings perfectly. And I think once you get used to this, I actually see myself using this quite a bit instead of using the dials when I am in a situation that permits it, obviously. Then I wanted to try out the rolling shutter to see if that is any better controlled on the Mark II. In my testing, this is with the 24 2.8G lens. This looks pretty much exactly the same. As you can see also, the Mark II display model actually was set to a different codec, which might influence that. And actually I'm seeing a lot of weird artifacts because the software is probably not supporting it yet. And then next I wanted to check the focus breathing compensation. I usually record with my 24 2.8G, which is a supported lens for this feature. And I do have a few instances where I felt the focus breathing was a little excessive. So if that gets controlled a little bit, that would be a very good thing. To be honest, I can't see any difference in this. Also, I think the environment wasn't really great for the focus breathing test. I do see it in this room where the wall is fairly close behind me, and I've seen it in reviews, so I think I would have to change to an environment where the wall is a little closer to the subject and has a few more like features on the wall where I could see the focus breathing a little better. In this particular environment, I didn't see a lot of focus breathing even from the Mark I. And then I didn't actually get to spend a lot of time with it, but I did try out the a7cR for a second as well. As I mentioned, they still are taking reservations for hands-ons, so I didn't have a reservation for the R, and I didn't get to try it out in depth, but I think it's a fairly similar camera anyway, so I personally was more interested in the a7c II, and you can also see the grip extension that comes with the R, which I found very, very comfortable to hold. I think this will be great if you're using the R with larger lenses, especially. This is a really, really good feature or accessory to have with this camera. And that's my little hands-on. I think there were a few features like the grip texture and the actual size comparison with the viewfinder that I haven't seen a lot in other videos. So I hope that was informative for you. And yeah, I already reserved mine. I was intent on buying it before I actually had the hands-on, but it was nice to kind of reinforce the improvement in, for example, the EVF, to kind of prevent that buyer's remorse, I guess. I think especially for video heavy hybrid shooters, it's gonna be a really, really good camera, and I'm really looking forward to shooting with it. Let me know in the comments what you thought. What do you think about this camera? Are you looking forward to buying it? Are you interested in the a7cR? a little more. And if you want to see more, there's tons of reviews, but I would recommend the kind of hands-on that Dylan Blackburn got at Sony Kondo, because he is a photographer that uses the a7c pretty much exclusively for stills. So you will get a better perspective from him on that front. He is really excited about the a7cr, and I think if you watch that, it'll give you a little more information from a a7c shooter. And I thought he expressed it really well, and his videos are always fun and pleasing to watch. Thank you for watching today. I hope this was informative for you. I'm working on a few film photography videos as well, so stay tuned for those, and subscribe if you want to, and I hope to see you again.